Fellow tennis nerds, I hope you are well. I'm here with Nikola from Intuitive Tennis. You probably know him already if you watched the podcast. Maybe you already subscribed to his channel. If you don't, please do. We haven't talked for a while. I mean, we keep in touch over WhatsApp and Instagram, but it's nice to talk to him also on a podcast and a video call. And we're going to talk about his recent videos, the AO and racket stuff. So I'm sure you're going to find something interesting in this podcast. But first of all, how are you, Nikola?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on, Jonas. We were so close to actually getting together the last couple of summers when I was in Europe, and it didn't work out, but hopefully next summer we actually get to make content together in person. But, you were a little bit upset at me. You wrote me a DM. You were upset because my latest video had the thumbnail, "New rackets are coming out in 2026. Who cares?" And this was a direct hit at the tennis nerd.
Of
No, I'm
course.
just kidding. It wasn't a direct hit. It wasn't a direct hit. And, in this video, I don't know if you watched it or not, but of course, like what you do is so valuable to so many people around the world. And when I was looking for a new racket, I privately messaged you to get some advice, and what you provide is top-notch content. And for sure, people are looking for rackets and they need new rackets. Maybe the racket that they're playing with doesn't work anymore. They need a new one, or, maybe the racket is in a really poor condition. Maybe it's cracked. They can't buy it anymore. They need a new one. So what you provide on your channel, on your website is so valuable. And, when I don't know something, I send people to you. But my point in this video was that if you're happy with your racket and your setup, and 2-3 years later, a new one comes out, you shouldn't worry about switching to the new one because that can mess you up. Now, I don't want to make any generalizations because maybe the racket can indeed be better, the new version, but in many cases, it's going to be slightly off, maybe not necessarily with the specs, but it's going to feel different and it can mess up your game and give you a lot of headaches. That was pretty much the topic of that video. I was trying to tell people to not fall into the trap of constantly buying new rackets. And maybe they're misled by the marketing, thinking that, the rackets continue to improve all the time, which is not necessarily true. So, yeah, what do you think about that?
As usual, we're usually in complete agreement, and I think 100% true. Like most players, like there are pros going through this. There are mostly club players and amateurs going through this, where you fall into the rabbit hole of all the racket releases, and these days it's worse than ever. Like it's never been more hectic to be a racket reviewer or a gear person, because like there are so many brands. There are so many releases. There are cosmetic updates. There are tech updates. There are all kinds of bells and whistles. And overall, my general advice is always like, if you cannot switch, if you can like just ignore it, do it. But because when you enter that jungle like yourself, you did recently, and I am constantly wading through it, it can be really difficult. It can get into your head. It can become like a mental drain on your performance when you're playing, unless you're a guy who loves testing gear and that's what you do. But if you're a person that wants to win matches or compete or play your best tennis, getting into the gear jungle can be really dangerous. So I completely agree with your advice that if you're happy with your setup, there's no reason to look elsewhere, really.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's going to create unnecessary problems. And what I found in my racket testing journey is that your head gets so preoccupied with racket thoughts, and you completely forget about all the other reasons why you're not playing well, and it just puts your attention at the wrong thing, in my opinion. And I have recently decided to stick with the Babolat Pure Drive Plus, my old racket, and I've been using it for a while now, and I've completely stopped thinking about the racket because it is my cat making noise.
I didn't hear
hold
it.
on. Yeah, let me. Hold on. Sorry, Jonas. Where were we? I completely got distracted.
No, it's fine. It's cats distract you in life. I know how it is. No, we talked about like how getting into the racket jungle and your journey, which you documented really interestingly and well, and
I did.
something I can recommend to watch is on YouTube. And when you watch your videos, you could sense your frustration. Like, it was quite clear that you hit like 3 shots, like, what is going on here? And you're overthinking rackets. Like, what is the racket doing? What am I doing? It's very tough to know sometimes.
It
And
is.
I'm happy to hear that you found a home now in the Pure Drive Plus. I mean, I find it's the new Pure Drive, right? Like the 2025.
Yeah, it's the 2025. Yeah. Now, the racket is not perfect for me by any means. Like, it's actually not good for some of my strokes. For example, my forehand hasn't been working well at all with that racket. I mean, the confusing thing is it works well on some days, but, from a technical aspect, that racket is not great for my forehand because it's less maneuverable because it's longer, right?
Yeah.
And probably maybe a little bit higher swing weight. So I felt that my forehand was better with the shift, but it's so tough for me because I like serving well, and I feel that I don't serve as well with any other racket as I do with the Pure Drive Plus. So from that viewpoint, I decided to just stick with it and deal with it, and it's been working quite well. I've tried to experiment a little bit with strings and tensions and trying to work on my forehand, but I really haven't thought about the racket that much. And I'll tell you why, because I know that I played well with this racket maybe like 2 weeks ago. So when I play poorly, I'm not going to blame the racket anymore. I have full accountability that it's like something else that is the reason why I'm playing bad. It's not the racket. So the racket thoughts are completely out of my head, which is something that's very nice. And prior to that, when I was in this testing phase, it was for sure the rackets that were in my mind when I was playing poorly. As experienced as I am with tennis, I've been playing for a long time. The thoughts would immediately shift to the racket when I would miss a shot, and I would right away think, okay, there's something wrong with this one. Let me grab another racket. And it's really a dangerous trap that you can fall into. And that's part of the reason why I made that video recently, to tell people that if you're in the situation that I'm in right now, where you're happy with your racket and you're playing well, you know that there are going to be days where you're going to play poorly. Just remember those days where you played well. That's the game of tennis. It's not always going to be perfect. And if you're not blaming your poor shots or losing matches on your racket, you are in a good space, and you can easily get out of that good mindset by continuously switching rackets and looking for the new and improved technology that's probably not there if we're talking about just a few years here and there. So that was my advice. If you like your racket, stock up on it, keep playing with it. It's always wise to experiment with the string tensions, of course, and go as low as you possibly can, especially if you're playing with dead balls. Maybe you go even lower. But as far as the racket, you try to stick with it and not think about it so much. But the process of finding one that you like, that's a story for another day. And that's not so easy. It's not easy for some players to find a racket because they're so picky and so peculiar with rackets, while other players can easily just say, okay, this racket is okay. I'm going to play with it. And they don't really think about it that much. For example, one of the players that I feature on my channel all the time, Emma Burgic, she switches racket like it's nothing. She'll play with Technifiber. She said, I love it. It's a great racket. She plays with it. Then she gets a thought in her head that this racket is not that good. She picks up another one, Babolat Pure Drive 98. She used to play with the Pure Drive back in the day, and right away adapts to it, doesn't think about it twice. And I think now she feels like that she's not getting that much pop, and she's thinking about switching to the regular Pure Drive. But the process in which she's doing this is very healthy because it's not as obsessive as, for example, my process, because she just doesn't spend that much time thinking about it. And that's way healthier. I don't think it's wise to think about rackets all the time, except if you're a racket collector or a tester, or if you just like having the latest and the greatest thing. And that's a completely different thing. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But if you want to think about your tennis game and maximizing it, it's a very dangerous trap that I was in. And I think sharing my experience can help a lot of players avoid that trap,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's also a lot related to common sense. Like, if you have tennis is such a difficult sport, you need to be 100% focused just to play
Yeah.
on any level, right? And I think the more thoughts you have about outside things, whether it's the racket or the string or the weather or your shoes or the surface or the wind, all these outside factors are you know distracting you, right? So that's the tricky thing. As a tennis player, is we have to adjust to everything. We have to adjust to our opponent's shots. We have to adjust to the surface. We have to adjust to the conditions. We have to adjust to everything going on that said day.
Right.
And then to add something that is actually within your control as a distraction as well, that just adds one more element of confusion, and it can really lead to a tough time focusing on what you need to do on the court.
Big time. Yeah, I agree 100%. But again, like I said before, if you're looking for a racket, that's a whole different story, So even though, I was jokingly saying that you were mad, you weren't really mad. You were just joking around with me. But yeah, we're again in full agreement on rackets. Contrary to what people think, we agree on probably 99% of any topic regarding rackets.
Yeah, usually it's like common sense, like everything. If you've been in tennis for a while, I know you've been playing enough that when you're not playing well and what happens to your mind, because tennis is such a mental sport. It's obviously physical and technical and all these other things. But if your mind is not there, it doesn't matter how good of a player you are or like your technique or your racket or anything, because if your mind's not there, you're not going to perform. We all know that. So anything that can distract you is usually an issue. And it's something to think about before you go on the court next time. Well, it could be other distractions as well. Like maybe you get negative always when you're playing in bad weather, for example, which is a situation where some players excel and some players really fall to bits, completely, right?
Absolutely. I agree 100%. You got to focus on your game and, things that you can control, and these outside factors that have nothing to do with you. Of course, they are a factor. I'm not saying they're not, but you can easily get out of your game and start playing worse. And again, fall into a trap that's very unhealthy and very difficult to get out of,
Yeah. So now that you have a racket, even though it's not perfect, and it's important to point out that no racket is perfect, you will always have to find a compromise. Like maybe the backhand is worse, or the forehand is worse, or the serve is worse, or something. So you have to kind of decide like what is the most important part of your game. And if it's like serve plus one, if you have a racket that works for serve plus one, maybe it doesn't work so well on the backhand side. Or if you are an all court player, you maybe want like a more balanced racket that's not going to give you any wow factor, right? So it's always a decision to make, like on strengths versus weaknesses of a racket. But now you're back to playing matches. You had some injury issues. How does that feel? Are you like in a process of figuring out where you are as a player now with the new racket, or how's things?
Well, so let me just go back to the first point that you made. So my initial reasoning for choosing the Wilson Shift was a faulty one, because I really wanted to improve my forehand, because my forehand was letting me down. My forehand has always been more flat, even when I played in Germany and even when I played in college, it was more of a flat forehand, and I could make more power with that side. But it was always maybe the shot that broke down more. But what I find now, where I'm getting older and my footwork is getting worse, is that the forehand, there's even a bigger discrepancy between my forehand and my backhand. But the thing is that we're talking about my backhand from way back in the day, because my backhand has also gotten worse. It's quite interesting because I don't really hit two-handed backhands. I haven't hit them since I stopped playing tournaments on a regular basis. So my left arm is atrophied. So my backhand is not what it used to be. So from the baseline, I'm having a lot of problems. And I actually don't think that the Pure Drive Plus is doing me any favors because of the maneuverability. Because I think with better maneuverability, you can create topspin a little bit easier. So that was the thought process for choosing the Wilson Shift. And at that moment in time, I thought it was the correct choice and was very excited. But then I had some arm issues that weren't related to the shift, they were related to another racket. And I didn't want to name the racket, because the thing with arm issues, tennis elbow, is like there's so many different experiences. People get tennis elbow from the Wilson Shift, they also get it from the Babolat Pure Drive. So any racket can theoretically give you tennis elbow. There's many other factors. A story for another day. But I started getting arm issues with the shift, and that was the reason why I went back to the Pure Drive Plus. But since I've been playing with it, I started to become very comfortable again with this racket. And I'm starting to really, really like it. And I don't think I'll ever play with another racket. Maybe if I run out of them, if I don't stock up enough, I might switch. But I decided to play with this racket because my initial reasoning for choosing the Wilson Shift in hindsight was wrong. Because what you talked about earlier, figuring out what are your weaknesses, what are your strengths, each player is going to be a little bit different. But in my case, I realized that I just don't have fun playing tennis when my serve is not working the way it can. And I don't really want to play tennis that way. So even though my ground strokes are a little bit worse with the Pure Drive Plus on specific days, I feel like my serve is optimized. I feel good about my serve. And for that reason, I have to play with this racket. It's the optimal racket for me, even though there are some issues that I'm okay with. It's things that I can try to work on, technically speaking, and try to improve or tinker a little bit with strings and tensions and so on. So let me now transition into what I'm doing with my game. So I was super motivated at the beginning of last year because I did that racket testing in 2024. So I was going to play a ton of matches in 2025 and get really fit. And I did post some matches throughout the year. And then, unfortunately, a little bit prior to the US Open, I hurt my back paddleboarding. And then I couldn't play for a long time. My back was really bad. I couldn't even walk straight. And then I went to Europe, but didn't do anything, just let it heal up. And when I came back, it was feeling better. I started playing a little bit. And so I tried again to post some matches of myself on my channel. And I made the December month on Intuitive Tennis the match month. I'll probably do the same thing next year. So I posted a match of myself against this tall Ukrainian guy called Yevon. And that was my first match in a long time. So I didn't play that well, but I played decent. I was serving well. So it gave me a lot of motivation to train and get better and maybe play better in the next match, because I wanted to feature at least a couple of matches of myself in December. But on the next practice after that match, I hurt my left calf really badly. And so I couldn't do anything for about a month until it healed up. And just recently, last week, I played a practice set with my buddy Milan, who was in town. And the left calf felt great, but I hurt my right calf. So now I have the same thing I had on my left calf on my right calf. And now, again, I'm going to have to take a month off. So it's been very frustrating trying to play and keep getting hurt. But I guess I just need to get in a little bit better shape, and it's just part of the deal when you get a little bit older. But I'm super motivated to keep going and keep playing, and hopefully put up some matches in 2026 on the Intuitive Tennis YouTube channel. I'm not playing well, and I don't expect to do anything crazy, but I do believe that I can get better and play a little bit better, improve some of the things that are not working well, and for sure improve my fitness and my footwork. I feel like there is some room for improvement there. So I think it's interesting to see whether I can do that or not this year.
I think it's refreshing as well to be honest with yourself and say, okay, used to be a very good player, and you still are a good player, but maybe obviously levels will drop a bit as you aged, you have injuries, you are coaching, which is not going to help your competitive level so much. So it's just about embracing that challenge anyway. It's going to not be as pretty as when you played professionally, but it's going to be at least interesting for you to compete. And I think the audience, you can correct me on the response, but I think that judging by other channels and what people like to watch, people like to see competitive tennis also on amateur level or another level. So it's something that people really respond well to.
I'm honest about my level. I tell people, look, I'm playing a lot worse. And we had discussions too, and you helped me a lot, because I told you I feel like my level fell off a cliff kind of fast. And you said it could potentially be the fact that you tested 50 plus rackets and shared your experience, how hard that is to find your game when you're testing so many different rackets. So maybe that had something to do with it, because I do feel like I've gotten quite a bit worse, like kind of quick. Maybe it's not true. It's so difficult in tennis to figure out with day form and so on. But I find myself now losing easily to a lot of guys that I used to beat very easily back in the day. And by back in the day, I'm talking about like maybe even 2022 or maybe even 2023. So part of it could be like some physical problems, could be the racket testing series, but I just feel like I'm playing worse. But it's okay. Like I'm completely fine with that. Like it's just a cycle of tennis life. It's so interesting because I play with this kid that I featured on my channel called Mikey, and I put a match of us playing against each other on a really windy day, and it was a super entertaining match because he slices against me a lot and hits drop shots and makes me run, and I'm moving so bad and trying to cover all these shots. And so that match was quite fun. A lot of people watched it, but this background story of that is that I used to coach Mikey when he was in juniors, and I used to beat him like very easily, like 6-0, and I didn't even have to play 100%. I could play like 50% and still win 6-0. And I play with him a lot. And now there are days where I'm losing sets. And I even lost, I think, one set 6-0 to him. So we talked about it afterwards. And I thought there was quite a beautiful moment. As crazy as that sounds, like, is this the circle of tennis life? You beat somebody 6-0 and then you end up losing to them. One guy gets better, the other guy gets a little bit worse. So it's just naturally what's going to happen, and I'm fully okay with that. I love tennis too much to not play. I'm a guy that hates at this point in my life to just rally and to drill. It's just I don't have a lot of time to practice because I'm so busy with all the other stuff that I'm doing. So when I'm on the court, I actually want to play, and maybe that's why I'm getting hurt so much because I'm playing a lot of sets. And I don't only play younger guys, I play guys my age. I play all different type of guys. And I'm having a lot of fun competing. I am still competitive. Like, if I lose a set and I was only going to play one set on that specific day, I always ask, let's play a second set, so I'm competitive enough to want to be out there and play. And it's most importantly, really fun. It's a great workout. And I'm going to keep doing that for as long as I can. So yeah, that's pretty much my tennis story. Let's see what happens this year. Hopefully I'm going to get my body right and be able to put together some matches. Let's see.
Yeah, body is number one. Like if you're not feeling great, like it's tough to play good tennis. Like I said as well, like being in the racket jungle, you're gonna play a few UTR points worse probably. Like it can really hurt you. But I think it's refreshing also that you have that take that you are fine with playing worse because, like you say, like things ebb and flow. And like next year, maybe you play great. Like you don't know, right? So it's like you gotta keep having fun, and accept that, okay, this is not the best tennis I've played, but fine, we keep moving, we keep working.
Look, if I'm like losing easy to everyone all the time, then it's like time to like maybe find weaker partners, and like that's a sign that you should listen to that. If you're losing easily nonstop, like out of 10 sets, every single one you lose 6-1 or 6-2, like that's a sign that you probably should be playing with somebody else, or you have to work really hard to fix whatever is broken. But if you're like win a set and then you lose a couple, and one of those ones that you lost, like it's even easy, like 6-1 or 6-0, just remember like a couple of weeks ago, you won. So the level is there, and that should give you motivation to keep trying. But I just want to mention one more thing. You talked about injuries. The funny thing now is that it's not necessarily all about injuries. I don't want to blame it on that and on my body. Like there are days where I'm feeling great and nothing hurts. My knee doesn't hurt, and I'm feeling fresh. I'm feeling motivated, and I'm still losing easy. That's a tough one. So it's not just injuries. It's just like your level will naturally go down if you have played at a higher level before. It's going to be absolutely impossible to maintain a high level as you age. It's just a natural progression in tennis. And some people are not okay with that. I have a lot of friends that are coaches who completely stop playing, and they just don't like the fact that they can't play anymore. I completely understand that. I even heard like this is like way higher level than what I'm talking about. But I heard Ljubicic in a podcast. He was asked whether he still plays, and Ljubicic said no, he doesn't play at all anymore because he likes to go out there and like serve a couple of aces per service game, and now he can't serve anymore because of his shoulder, and he just doesn't want to play. It's not fun for him. So I completely understand like when players that used to be good don't play anymore because they remember their game as being something completely different than what it is. But in my case, I just love the game too much, and even if I like, let's say like suck really bad, I'm still gonna play because it's just a big passion of mine, you know.
I think that's healthy, but I understand also like Jubicic or guys even below. Like I know also some guys who are when they used to play pro and they are not close to their level, they rather play paddle. You know, like they play some other sport because
Exactly.
like you go to golf or you go to something that gives you competitive juices, but you're starting from a lower point so you can build up and start that journey, which is like fresh, you know, and then like you don't have high expectations because you know that you are not like a professional golfer or paddle player or whatever. But in tennis, you feel like I used to be so good. I used to beat these guys like love and love, and then now I'm
Yeah.
like struggling, or I cannot hammer the serve. I cannot just like swipe forehands. So I completely get that. Like when you were like maybe a pro player of some kind on some level, like you will feel like where am I now? Because like the guys on the pro tour, they work so hard. It's crazy. Like you seeing that up close is like it's insane how much work goes into being a competitive tennis player on any level.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna be like a guy who plays maybe 2 competitive matches a week and that's like the thing, it's very tough to it's impossible to keep up the level. You have to just accept your new level a little bit, and then
You
play
do
from
have to
that.
you do have to accept it, but I actually got a lot of inspiration when I was in college. Because speaking of pro players, my college coach Mel Purcell, who was a professional player, quarterfinals at Wimbledon, highest ranking was like 21 in the world. And when I got there, he was still on the senior tour, but he loved to compete, and he would play sets every day. A lot of times against me, but against all the other guys, he would play doubles. But the great thing was that Mel would also play against some of his buddies, and he would like set up these doubles matches where he would play with the worst guy and play against a couple of decent guys. And the amount of enthusiasm that he displayed in these doubles matches that I was part of here and there, it was so inspirational because here's a guy that played in Wimbledon. He made a living from tennis, and he's playing in front of absolutely nobody with absolute nobodies, and he's having a blast, and he's as intense and enthusiastic about the whole experience as if he's playing on center court at Wimbledon. I've found that so inspirational, and I feel I'm the same way. Like, not that I'm comparing myself to Mel Purcell, like I just played in college, but like I said, even if my level is bad or it doesn't matter like who I'm playing with, I just love the game too much, and I get very excited when I play. I get very competitive, and I just love it, and I won't give it up. I won't keep going.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. I think it's kind of like inspirational for me to hear it as well. That you are like, okay,
I
I'm gonna
Yeah,
keep playing even though it hurts a bit sometimes.
if you like that
Mentally.
feeling of stepping on the court and you're in a set, and it's just that you get competitive, and even if you lose, like that feeling is like so great. It awakens something inside of you, and it just it's just too fun to give up.
Yeah, I agree. I played competitive sets and matches like now and then, and it's a fun feeling.
Yeah.
It's you don't have the same adrenaline when you're like just hitting from the back, or doing something. It's always fun to have and tennis players are generally, especially if you play on some advanced club level or whatever, they are pretty competitive guys. Like so I play a new
Yeah.
guy today, a Dutch guy, and he was very competitive. He wanted to win, and so did I. So it's like then you have never met the guy before, but it's like a fun time.
I don't find anything else in life that can equate to like that feeling on the court. Being a set and you're competitive, and even if you're losing, that like horrible feeling, and then fighting, trying to come back, or even when you have a chance to win the match, like it's just these feelings are like really impossible to recreate with anything else. And especially if you have experienced them in the past, like once you are on a court and you start feeling those things again, like it's just fun, and it's just, yeah, like I said, it's a great thing. That's what I tell everyone. Like tennis is such a complex sport. It goes so deep, and I would recommend it to everyone over any other racket sports because it gives you so much. It's not just a workout; it's so many other things that you can get from the game of tennis, and it's just a great game, in my opinion. The best sport in the world, for sure.
It's important to encourage people. Like I have my friend Stefan, who's is like really love tennis, but he's never really played. Like he played football and golf and stuff, and now he's on a journey to become as good in tennis as he can from his like starting at like 40. And he has good ball skills, and now he's really been improving fast and doing some coaching, like getting some coaching, and I help him when we're hanging out. But now he starts to play matches like for the first time in his life, like actual tennis matches, and that's like a whole different ballpark. We talk about it a lot. Like when you're playing, you're hitting a ball from the middle with even with a much better player, you can hit the ball back, no problem. And then you put yourself in a match situation, and like the nerves, everything feels different. You cannot like hit any shot that you thought you would be able to hit, especially if it's new to you. So that like muscle of playing matches is so important, but it's also so much more fun than just like hitting balls from the back. So I think it's important, even though it hurts sometimes and your ego might take some beatings. And I have friends that like they are afraid of playing matches because they don't like losing. They cannot deal with losing. And part of me understand it, but it's also like it's good. It gives you like a good mental challenge to play tennis, even if you play badly. And like I mean, next time you play well. Like it's just something you have to be able to endure a bit.
Yeah, it's so funny you bring that up because I've had students in the past, like some of them were even on my channel. For example, Anna, a lot of people know her. Like she was a day one beginner when we first started. And we trained a lot. I haven't trained as much recently because she had surgery on her foot and she's super, super busy with dancing now. She like took her dancing up a notch and she just doesn't have time, but we're still training occasionally. She doesn't really play that much tennis, but even when she was like really loving tennis and playing several times per week, she had absolutely no interest in playing matches. Like I would even try to motivate her to play matches because I know that it can be so much fun and bring so much value to any player. But she just had no interest in it, and she just loved going out there and getting a workout, hitting the ball, and actually really focused on getting better, improving her technique. But she didn't want anything to do with tennis matches. And there are players like that, and I 100% respect that. If that's what you like, that's what you like. You don't want to play matches, that's completely cool. But here is the thing. Hitting, like you said, from the middle of the court means a lot. It means that if you can consistently do that and you have sound fundamentals, if you can get 100 balls in a row at a good pace, it's going to be difficult to do, even down the middle of the court if you have wrong technique. However, when you play a match, it doesn't mean that you're going to be very consistent. And just a story, something that happens very frequently with me because now I'm so often losing very badly. And from a stationary position, I'm good. Like I will not have a poor day ever. Like it's just that, I've hit so many balls. I can keep the ball and play really well in lessons. I don't miss anything. And so when I'm warming up with these guys, I can literally have like rallies that are 100 balls plus and I don't miss anything. And I really try to like concentrate and not miss. And a lot of times the camera's already running and maybe something interesting will happen that I can make content out of. But it's super interesting. I just recently played my buddy Milan, and the warm up was like that. We had it's like a 3.5 minute rally, and nobody was missing anything. Now listen to this. The first set starts, and I literally can't put up one single ball on the court. I'm missing everything, everything, and I lose this set very easily. And it only in the second set did I start finding the court, and that is the mystery of tennis. That is the difficulty of tennis. The fact that I was making every shot when we were warming up from a stationary position doesn't mean that you're going to play well once the match starts. There are many factors why this is true. It could be, like you said, mental. Maybe you get tight. Or could, in my case, most likely it's footwork. It's probably poor shot selection. Maybe I'm playing too aggressive and my footwork is not right. Or maybe it's the opponent that's maybe doing something different all of a sudden to you, giving you different balls. It's not going right to you. Maybe now all of a sudden it's slice, it's heavier spin. So many different things can happen on the match court that all of a sudden your game completely falls apart. And that's the challenge of tennis. And that is the true test in tennis. That is match play. That's the true test. It's not that all the other stuff is not important. Like I said, you have to master your technique and you have to have the ability to keep the ball in play and with sound technique. But a match is a different beast altogether. And for those that like the competitive part of tennis and like playing matches, and you avoid it for reasons that you mentioned, Jonas, maybe they're scared. You have to overcome that. Because like I said before, Anna, she doesn't want to play matches. She just plays tennis for fun. She likes it. That's different. But if you really have the urge to play, but you don't because you're scared, you have to overcome that. Because again, matches are the ultimate test in the game of tennis. And the fact that you can get all these serves in and you can keep the ball in play, it doesn't mean anything when it comes to the match. You have to put yourself to the test, and that's going to be your level of play. It's going to be the actual match play,
100%. And it's also like opening up like a new area of your life if you're not playing matches, because my friend Daniel, who you know a bit as well, like
I work with him.
Yeah, he usually says that like for him, like tennis can be therapy, like you're seeing what you bring on the court, maybe like highlight something that's not good in your life in general, or that you might have to like face your demons on the court, like you don't like conflict, for example. So that when you're playing a tennis match, especially a tournament, it's kind of a conflict situation. Like you're playing another person who also wants to win. In that moment, it's kind of like heated, like no matter if you like it or not, but it becomes like a heated moment. And a lot of people struggle with that. And then it's like a good way to kind of work on your fire inside a bit, like to be able to be like a gentleman or gentlewoman, but still be competitive and be like a lion on the court. That's not an easy balance to find. So a lot of people go crazy and behave like, I mean, I played in the local leagues here and stuff, people who behave so badly that it's like you want to call some psychoanalyst and see, like, look at this guy, his guy is a nutcase, but it's a part of it.
Like I always say, tennis, it doesn't build character, it reveals character, so you gotta, that is a great chance to work on yourself and improve in so many different areas that might not necessarily be related directly to tennis. Tennis is great for self-improvement. It's a great game because it's a game that will make you humble. You will miss a ton of shots. There's no such thing as perfection in a game of tennis. You will lose a lot of points and you will lose a lot of matches, and overcoming that for some people is not easy. Maybe they have ego issues and so on. So again, I can't stress how great of a sport this is, for the fact that it's an individual sport. And yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's and I can feel that you love it. Like, and it's like people who love tennis, it's an easy way to connect, because you connect through something.
Sure.
And it's always fun when you're playing new people that you maybe haven't met before, and you're playing a set, or you're just hitting or practicing. You can really connect, in a good way through tennis. So it's like a great way of meeting people, I would say.
Yeah, but then there's different levels to it. I feel like the connection I have with you is like, I see that like you invested your whole life on becoming like the greatest like expert in tennis equipment that you can be, like more specifically like rackets. And I can see how much work you put into what you do. And I feel I'm the same way in regards to like teaching tennis, because not necessarily playing, because I gave up on that right after college. I started teaching, but I'm the same way when it comes to teaching. I invested my whole life into it. I started very young. My dad was a coach his whole life. So, I have a connection with you through that for sure. It's like, it's just, it goes beyond passion. It's maybe an obsession. And I respect that. And I do think that like you do find those type of people a lot in the game of tennis, and you connect through that, because it does like, if you want to become like great at this game in any aspect of it, you have to invest a tremendous amount of time and a lot of commitment to it. And that's why you can, create strong bonds with like-minded people, for sure.
Yeah, you have to be a little bit crazy, and I think that also goes
That's
obviously
right.
for players, and I mean coaches and everyone in a certain sport. Like, where like if you want to be very, very high level of whatever you do, you know, if it's work or if it's like another hobby or something, and you need to invest a lot of time. It's part of it, you know, and tennis is a deep game and it requires so many hours just to be able to hit like a proper ball, and then like you go from there to compete and stuff. It's a crazy crazy life, but it's a beautiful life in many ways, right? And I think that kind of is a good segue into to talking a bit about pro players. I mean, you have done a lot of work now, like having a weekly Monday rant you're doing, where you talk about the tour. But sometimes during the slams, you also do predictions, and then you have like weekly news updates if there are big stories in tennis that you talk about. You know, and I always watch your stuff, and I can recommend it. But what do you have happening now? Like it's the Australian Open on the doorstep. They're playing qualis right now. How close are you following this? And like, can we expect you to comment on the stuff that's happening from this fortnight?
Yeah, so I think in 2021 or 2022, but even when I first started, I always did different type of videos. And in 2022, I think I started this series of videos called Monday Morning Tennis Rant, and I've continued with those. It's not every single Monday, but most Mondays out of the year, I'll do a rant. But then, you know, the schedule gets messed up a lot now. It's like finals are happening on last year. They were happening on a Thursday, and it's like it gets kind of crazy. So the Monday morning tennis rant can happen on any day, okay? But I've decided to do more of those type of videos because I saw that, you know, people responded well to them. There's a lot of engagement in the comments, and people really appreciate the effort that I make to analyze professional tennis. And it's very time consuming. I spend a lot of time studying players and studying these matches. So I actually do quite a bit of content for the last couple of years. Yeah, 2024, 25. And then this year I'm going to continue where I cover all the big tournaments like in great depth. So it's not just the Grand Slams. I will do a daily video during the Grand Slams, but even like the 1000s and the ATP finals, I did it close to a daily basis where I was uploading videos. And then throughout the seasons, I cover a lot of tournaments. And it's just something that I've always done. Even prior to doing it on video, I've always studied the game. I don't think there's been that many days where I didn't check results from every single WTA tournament, ATP tournament, even challengers. Back in the day, it was even futures, and then I would like go into the German rankings and German prize money tournaments. Like it's just a hobby of mine, and even when I was a little boy, I was into the rankings. We used to be subscribed to Tennis Magazine in Germany, and I always used to study the rankings and stuff like that. So a big passion of mine, and I've actually developed a method to analyze tennis matches that I use when I analyze these professional matches and then report on them. So I plan to continue to do that in 2026 and during the Australian Open. I will, like you said, I will predict the draw. That's always fun. It creates a lot of excitement. And I will try to do one video per day for the entire 2 weeks. And then I'll finish it off with like a live stream after the final. So excited.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think that this time of the year is super exciting because you've also been without tennis, professional tennis, that is, for like
Yeah.
a month, and you can watch if in Europe you can watch the Australian Open like in the mornings, you know. So it's kind of a good way to get back into tennis, and like it's a great slam. Sad not to go, but it would be amazing to go there. Maybe next year we'll see. But it's definitely a good time of the year, and you made some recent ones. Like we can actually discuss a few of the ones you've done. We've seen Bublik, which was your latest video, right? Like, can he turn a top? Can he become a top 5 player? Now he's a top 10 player after winning
Yeah.
Hong Kong, right?
Mhm.
Amazing story with Bublik, you know, considering he was like close to retirement thoughts. He was like down to 80 in the world not long ago, and then he just went on this rampage, and he doesn't seem to be able to stop winning. Like he just wins, and it looks kind of effortless in a way. How do you think like how did he do this? Like, what do you think changed for him? And can he keep going?
I think he built his character, you know, like Dennis Real's character. We saw his character on the court, and a lot of people loved it for the probably wrong reasons, but he built his character. You know, it's so funny. I've done a lot of videos on Bublik, and he's always been one of the fan favorites, very talented, but nobody ever really believed that this guy could be top 10. But he was crazy inconsistent, and he would break rackets on the court, and he would go viral for those things, underhand serves. But when he switched to the Aero 98, that was step number one. That's an amazing racket, but he took a few days off after losing in Indian Wells, and he seriously considered retiring because he didn't want to play like qualies or go to the challenger level. He was serious about completely quitting. And then something changed. He started doing well very shortly after that. He reached the final of a challenger in Phoenix that came right after winning Indian Wells. And then he went to the clay, won another challenger, and started winning matches. And then came that Roland Garros match against Draper, where he was so nervous serving out the set, the match at 5-4 in the fourth, I believe. And after the match, he said, if I would have lost that game, I would have lost the fifth set 6-2. So that's just Bublik. He's very honest. And, the funny thing about him is that after that Roland Garros breakthrough, he's been playing so consistent, winning so many tournaments. Not that many ups and downs. And most importantly, his game has cleaned up tremendously. Like, he'll still do an underhand serve here and there, but I don't really see it at all anymore. He's just become a super solid player. And also a bit less self-deprecating. So we're seeing the growth of a player, building of character. He is figuring out how to perform at his best on the court, and it's just a beautiful thing to see, because what we all don't want to see is someone like that, who obviously has a tremendous amount of talent, not fulfill his talent. And it's nice to see that he finally did, because if he retired tomorrow, he's accomplished something that he never dreamed of accomplishing. His goal was to reach the top 20. So now he's in the top 10. I think he can go even higher, top 5. But it's just a beautiful thing to watch in regards to Bublik.
Yeah, it's a feel-good story in a way, because like he went quite quickly from like the really low emotional situation, and like you said, he had this profile of being a guy who was mostly known for, underhand serves, in like tweeners, hitting the ball with the handle at the net, all this fun stuff that people love. But I think sometimes that stuff is a way for you to escape, like you're underperforming, you're not happy with your performance because you can do better. Yeah. And sometimes that stuff comes out as a reaction to your own stuff, like you're like, okay, I'm going to be a joker now that I cannot be like a main actor in this on this tour, right? So it seems like once he figured things out, he realized like overdoing that stuff is going to take too much distractions, too much energy from him. So he does some of it still, but he still seems to be able to rein in and really pinpoint his focus to like winning the key points. And that's something that's really improved quite a lot, I would say.
Yeah, it's completely different. And another guy that's like somewhat similar is Mute. I feel like he's completely transformed himself as well. From a tennis bad boy, like the most hated player by a lot of people, he's like cleaned up his act big time. He's like, I've not seen like a fight on the court from him. Very similar to Bublik, like he's optimizing his game. Of course, like he's gonna have a difficult time to have Bublik results. It's a different game style, but it's just nice to see when players figure it out and maximize their potential. And unfortunately, like the other stuff that got them famous, like absolutely destroying a racket on the center court and going viral for that, or doing underhand serves. Unfortunately, those type of things have a huge fan base, and a lot of people love that stuff. Yeah. So you could easily fall into the trap as a player and thinking that your role is to be this like clown, so to speak, and this entertainer, and that can't be good for your tennis development, because that's obviously not going to maximize your potential, but it's going to get you a lot of attention, and therein lies the trap. Very similar to maybe. Actually, no, I'm not gonna talk about him, but you probably know who I'm talking about. There are players who are falling into this trap and they can't get out of it. Let me just put it that way. They're in this trap and they're stuck in this trap. So again, Bublik, my hat is off to him. Lots of respect, because I don't see him at all as an entertainer anymore. I see him as a huge challenger and a very dangerous opponent for anyone. even including like Sinner and Alcaraz. He beat Sinner and Halle last year. Like, this guy's so dangerous. He's so versatile. Nobody wants to play him. And I don't think they probably had the same feeling when they stepped foot on the court with Bublik like a couple of years ago, the top players. So now it's completely different, and it's just nice to see. But again, the social media can be a trap. It's very dangerous because that type of stuff is super popular and blows up, goes viral, and there's tons of support in the comments for this type of antics. So it's tricky.
Yeah, and it can be like lead you down to kind of building your whole personal brand around it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue Kyrgios has kind of hijacked part of his personal brand and his talent into becoming this kind of guy. And we've seen him like Wimbledon finalist, right? We know his level is high, but it's been part of his career. This like the clowning has taken over a little bit, or like trying to like get some clout in social media or some attention seeking, like now we had I know you did a video about the Sabalenka Kyrgios match as well, which is another like a highlight or like attention grab in a way, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a whole story for another day, like, or maybe it's a story for right now. The battle of sexes, I thought it was like I didn't like it that much. I'll be honest with you. Like, I didn't like it for a multitude of reasons. Like, I don't think it did anyone any favors. Like, I don't know. It's just I felt that the original one was way better because, and correct me if I'm wrong, like Bobby Riggs was already like way older than Billie Jean King, I think. So it made more sense from a level aspect. Like, the Kyrgios's level is incredible. Like, he's still capable of beating guys in the top 100, So that's like a UTR level of 15, right? Against UTR 13, Sabalenka. So what's going to happen? It's like it's boring. So they tried to make the court so that Sabalenka has more of a chance, but still, it's just not good. So again, the original Battle of the Sexes made sense because, Billie Jean King had a realistic chance, and there were other ones. Like, I remember one with Pat Cash against Konta, where Pat Cash lost, and Pat Cash was already in his 50s. Like, that is super fun to watch, and it's like exciting. Like, who wants to get excited about a match that's like it's such a discrepancy where the guy doesn't even have to play full and he's just spinning the ball in and kicking the serve in and winning anyway easy. That's not good for WTA tennis. It just makes it look bad. And comparing WTA and ATP in that way, when you do make a direct comparison, because Kyrgios is still on tour and, like I said, still capable of playing good tennis, it's just a stupid thing to do, to compare women's tennis to men's tennis. We all know that men are better at tennis than women, but women are incredibly good at tennis, and they can beat a lot of men. And that's what I did on my channel. I did a series with Emma where I have her play against all different type of guys. And she does phenomenally well. She beats guys that are like 11 UTR, 11 and a half UTR in one case. And I'm going to do more matches with Emma in 2026. So that's fun. When there's a realistic chance, the woman gets to like showcase her skills and how good she is. And fact is that like these women that are playing on tour date, they're gonna beat like 99.99% of male tennis players worldwide. It's only like the top, the high level male players that they're gonna struggle with. But recreational level, forget it. I did it on my channel. Like, absolutely no comparison. Somebody that's like playing on a WTA tour against like even 4-5-0, no chance. So I feel that there's a better way to showcase women and promote the sport, because I'm a super fan of WTA, and that just wasn't it. The Kyrgios Sabalenka thing, it wasn't it. I feel like they could have put in somebody else in there instead of Kyrgios and made it into a match that's more entertaining, number one, and also given the woman a realistic chance to win, and therefore promote the WTA in a positive light. Because we don't want to get into any other topics besides tennis, but it sets a dangerous layup for a lot of these. Okay, I'm not going to go any further, but let's just say there were a lot of comments disparaging women's tennis all over, mostly on X, but also I saw it on Instagram. I just hate to see that, because the women don't deserve that. They put in the same amount of work to get to that level as the guys, and they shouldn't be compared to guys. So long story short, yeah, that wasn't it. That battle of the sexes. I didn't like it that much.
No, me neither. I didn't like it at all. I felt like it was completely pointless. It had like
Yeah.
no interest in building up tennis, no interest in building up women's tennis, no interest in building up men's tennis either. So it's like, who wins? Nobody wins.
Oh,
I mean, they got some money for doing it, but like obviously, that's not what we want. So
but
I felt like it was not good.
Sorry to cut you off, but even Kyrgios didn't gain anything. Like, you might be a Kyrgios fan or not. He's very polarizing, but I didn't see one positive comment about him either. They were all calling him a washed up, like hack, out of shape guy. That's what I was reading. Like, washed up tennis pro. Everybody was calling him number 600 in the world or 670 in the world. It was so insulting. Like, so nobody gained anything. That was not good.
No, I agree. We don't need to put so much more time on that one, but that was interesting to discuss. I know you made a video. I think it was relevant to make a video about it because it was a big thing in the media. But
sure,
like I think most sensible commentary said nobody won. Like that was the sensible take to have. I would say.
Exactly, I agree 100%. Yeah.
So what do you think? Like now we're getting close to Australian Open. We haven't seen much of Alcaraz and Sinner. They've played a exhibition against each other, which Alcaraz won. He has parted ways. I know you made a bit about that as well with Ferrero. Like, what was kind of your take on that? Like that's gonna be a little bit of a thing to watch out for in terms of the Alcaraz level and his new life on tour this year.
It's hard to say, but I need to familiarize myself a little bit more with the facts. And because when I made that video, I was immediately after the news broke. So I didn't know any of that stuff that came out after, all those small little details and how they broke up. But I stand by my video because the topic of my video, the main point I was trying to drive home, was the fact that it is my impression that Alcaraz wants like independency very badly, but he's not getting it. He's being too controlled. And I understand the control that they're imposing because the belief is that if you let this guy loose, he's going to hit like 200 drop shots in a row or something like that. Like, I'm exaggerating, but he's too uncontrollable, which I don't believe to be true because I do think that Carlos Alcaraz has great instincts on the court. Obviously, you can't have poor instincts on the court and just poor shot selection, poor tactics, and have the career that he's had. Impossible. So he has good instincts on the court regarding his tactics, but there are times where it's not so good and he overdoes it a little bit. Maybe that has to do with the crowd and so on. So from that standpoint, you could understand why the team wants to have control over him and tell him exactly how to construct everything, not just the life on the court, but also off the court. And he's being controlled a lot. And I don't think he likes it. That's my impression, at least, because I did watch his documentary on Netflix, and it was my impression that he really badly wants to be independent. Like, he's a grown man now, and he doesn't want to be treated as a junior. So I think therein lies the danger a little bit. And whether that was the reason for the Ferrero split up, I don't know. I have to read up on it. Probably not. But then on the other hand, like, I've heard that the dad is involved, and Carlos didn't have a say in it and didn't really want them to fire Ferrero. I don't know if that's true or not. Again, I have to familiarize myself, but I don't think anybody knows for sure. There's a lot of speculation. I think there was a lot of wrong stuff that was put out there very early after they had split up. But in any case, whether it's Ferrero, whether it's his agent, I forget his name now, whether it's the dad, if there's too much control and the male player naturally wants more independence as he gets older, I don't think that's good for his game. Like, I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. He's still going to be like the favorite with Sinner, but in comparison to Sinner, there's a stark difference in that because I do believe Sinner is his own man. I feel like he has independence. The dad and the mom are like role model tennis parents. Not that there's anything wrong with like being coached by parents or having the parents close by, but the parents have completely left the tennis up to Yannick, and they don't even show up to most tournaments. I think the dad still works as a chef I just think it's phenomenal. And it is my impression that Yannick calls the shots, but I'm not sure if Carlitos calls the shots. And I think if you compare that over a long period of time, I think that's going to mean that Yannick Sinner will have a better career. He was going to flip the head-to-head, and he's going to end up with more success than him. Which doesn't mean that Alcaraz can't beat Sinner. He might beat him like in the Australian Open, right? I haven't thought about that yet. I have to see the draw first. But don't get me wrong, Carlos Alcaraz is like absolute genius on the court. He's incredible. He's at the level of the big three for sure. Same with Sinner. But in comparison to Sinner, I think over like their whole careers, maybe if he doesn't solve this problem, which I think he will, like it's not that he can't solve this. Like, I mean, I'm sure he's going to eventually like want to have his own family, whatever, and become independent, like naturally, like that's going to evolve naturally for sure. But I think from a mental standpoint, Sinner is going to be more consistent. I think Carlos Alcaraz has shown that he can be consistent too. He had an incredible consistency that he displayed in 2025. I call him the new Alcaraz on my channel. That's the Alcaraz after Miami, where he lost to Goffin. That's new Alcaraz. And I do expect this to continue, like for sure. But again, direct comparison between these two guys where the mental game is so important because the tennis is so similar. Like, I'm not saying that they have the same tennis, same game style, but from a mental standpoint, I go a little bit more towards Yannick. And for that reason, I'm a little bit worried about Carlitos in that regard.
Yeah, we all know how important stability is, right? In your team and in your mind and everywhere, especially when you're traveling around the world and playing tennis at the highest stakes. So I feel also like that stability is needed. And I think Sinner seems to have it more. Like, that does not mean that Sinner wins 3 slams and Carlitos 1. Who knows? You know, we will see what happens. But
we don't know.
We don't know. But we're speculating. This is what we're doing here. But I do agree that there's a bit more of a question mark now after this split, because it felt like it wasn't completely maybe Carlitos' decision. And I mean, that's also completely alleged information. That's what we get online, and nobody can ever know. So we want to put too much out there. But what you see online is that it was a bit of a muddy thing. Like, it wasn't pretty clear cut. It came out of nowhere and shocked a lot of people. And it seemed a little bit like a spur of the moment decision, which could be dangerous to someone's like mental state when he's going to play tennis on the highest level. So let's see how it will impact him. And I also believe that, you know, Carlitos is good enough and strong enough to kind of figure things out. But if there's too much stuff going on in the background, it can have a negative effect. So we will see as now and during the AO, right, how he takes it and how he performs. You know,
look, put everything aside, like what we just talked about, like just the fact that he had a phenomenal 2025 season, like in my opinion, the best season of his life. The fact that he was able to bounce back and win Cincinnati and the U.S. Open after losing that tough Wimbledon final, I mean, that's incredible. And then he even like played amazing indoors, which a lot of people have doubted Alcaraz indoors. So he's doing that. Like, I've documented his serve changes. I made like 3 or 4 videos on his serve on my channel, and the serve is better than it's ever been. And so now he goes into the 2026 season with, you know, different coaching team, or maybe the same coaching team, but like, you know, his father figure is not there anymore, Ferrero, and he actually changed his serve again. And I do like the changes that he's made. So you can look at it like, if it's from this angle, if it's not broken, why are you trying to fix it? You know, just keep plugging away, keep going. You know, maybe he's thinking like, get that extra edge against Sinner in regards to his technical changes. I don't think that necessarily had anything to do with splitting for Ferrero. The fact that he lost to Sinner at the ATP finals, like, I don't think that had anything to do with it. Like you said, we probably don't know like the whole story, you know, because there's a lot of rumors. But yeah, like changing too much can be a problem. And I feel like Alcaraz has changed quite a bit in the last couple of years, and like I feel like he just keep plugging away. Like, I feel like He should have just continued the way he was doing things in 2025. But like I said in my original video, where I didn't know any of the details, I feel like he has this urge to like change stuff and do something and be his own man. So we'll have to watch him and see how he does. I think it's interesting because both him and Sinner didn't play any warm-up tournaments prior to the Aussie Open. So we just have to watch them carefully in the early rounds and see whether they're going to meet in the final again. Most likely they will.
Yeah, it's tough to not see them in a final. Like, I mean, it's their fault. They mainly shown like they are so dominant. Like, if you look at the last 2 years in men's tennis, but obviously there are some outliers. We have, Djokovic always keen to take number 25. He's going to be working hard to do that. He's going to be dangerous, of course. He's done it so many times. Nobody can count him out ever. And then obviously you have these guys that can perform at the highest level, like Zverev and maybe even Medvedev, Stefanos. Like, these guys can be dangerous and do beat like maybe Sinner or Alcaraz on an off day as well. So there are some outliers, but the obvious like favorites are easy to identify, Alcaraz and Sinner, and then the rest, they will have to step up.
Yeah, it's obviously it's easy to predict what's going to happen. Over the next, I would say, the next 2-3 years is an easy prediction what's going to happen. But it's going to be more difficult to predict what will happen between those two. Like who will do better, because I think a lot of people always think like whoever won the last one is going to win the next one. Like, that's what I see in my comments, because I do a lot of predictions on my channel. And, I actually predicted everything correct with their head-to-head except Rome. I got Rome wrong. I said Sinner was going to win, but I got everything else right. And it does go back and forth a little bit, and it's confusing, like, who ends up winning, because a lot of people thought that Sinner was going to lose in Wimbledon after that heartbreaker in Roland Garros. And then a lot of people thought that Sinner was going to win US Open because he won it the year before and he beat Alcaraz. But then Alcaraz comes out and plays amazing, and Sinner doesn't play so well. So it's predictable what's going to happen, but it's still very unpredictable what will happen between those two guys. And that's what makes it so exciting. It's a great rivalry. And it's also exciting to see, like, can these other guys beat Djokovic? Because like Djokovic is clearly the third best player in the world, even at his age. What is it, 38? So that's going to be a big test for a lot of these guys. They have to step up. There's a lot of great players on tour. The level has definitely gone up, but it is not a good look to have a 38-year-old kick your butt in the Grand Slams. You know what I'm saying? Like, they have to step up and they have to start beating Djokovic. And I don't know if they will, by the way. I don't know. I don't think so. No. I mean, I have to look and see. I just don't want to make a statement like without knowing what's going on with Djokovic, but they have to step up, like Zverev, Fritz, Shelton, all these guys in the top 10, they're losing to Djokovic at 38, and they have to ask themselves some really tough questions. If they want to have a chance to beat Sinner and Alcaraz, but they can't beat Djokovic, not that Djokovic is bad or anything, but he's 38. Like, we've never seen this before in the history of tennis. Somebody to be like going that deep in slams that consistently at this age. Like, it's insane. Like, Connors was 39, I believe, when he made the semifinals of the US Open. And that was one of the most exciting things that ever happened in the history of tennis. Like, they're still showing those clips on that tournament. And Djokovic did it 4 times last year at 38. And he'll probably do it again this year. Let's see. But so, like, yes, tennis is as good as it's ever been. The level is sky high. Everybody's so good. I agree, and so fit, but also maybe from a mental standpoint, maybe this is all a mental challenge. These guys, they have to step up. They have to step up. All these guys that are like in the top 10 that are really good, like, they have to step up and they have to take out Djokovic. Can they do it this year? I think that's, like, aside from the Sinner Alcaraz storyline, to me, that's an even more exciting storyline. I'm going to be watching very closely.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's really been an issue for the whole generation here, like one part of the generation. It's like that they have not really been able to do away with, like, I mean, let's say Novak, we put him as kind of the guard that's like saying that, okay, my generation's still like the best, and they cannot get over that, while Sinner and Alcaraz just blew past it. They didn't care about that. But then the rest of the guys, and I think Bublik said something of the sort. You know, he said like, you know, it's up to us. You know, like we have not performed on this level, and I think Novak is like where the threshold is. Like, and if they can start, if they beat him, like if he doesn't reach like farther than like fourth round now and in Australian Open or in the upcoming slams, then it's been a shift. But until that happens, we're still in this kind of Alcaraz and Sinner and then Novak. You know, like it's still that world that we've been in a while now. So it's,
well, there's so many. Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but like there's so many layers to this. Like Bublik said this after the Shanghai tournament where Basharo beat Rinderknecht, where Djokovic lost, and this is a great opportunity. Like because Sinner had to pull out the cramps, and Alcaraz didn't even play because he hurt himself in Tokyo.
Yeah.
So that was a great opportunity, and Bublik said it. We just failed. We didn't step up to the game. Like, you know, when there's a chance, when there's a window, like we got to step up. Man, we got like Shelton did in Montreal, I believe, last year. He stepped up. So they have to step up, and you know, it's so hard for these guys to overcome like this. I think from a mental standpoint, to overcome like the challenge of facing the GOAT, and they just show him too much respect maybe at times. You know, maybe that's another whole nother side of the coin, and maybe there's too much history built up between each individual guy and Djokovic. Like, let me just give you one specific example of what I mean. Like, so Djokovic will play a season that's not even full schedule. Like, he'll skip a ton of tournaments and still make 4 Grand Slam finals. And people don't talk about this enough, where it's like it doesn't cost him, where it would cost a lot of players not being match fit, but it doesn't matter. Like, no preparation whatsoever going into Roland Garros. Like, he lost to Arnaldi in Madrid. People are writing it off, and he still makes the semis, right? But let's just like have this one specific example of Taylor Fritz, who was like 0-11 against Djokovic, I think. He did take a set off him at the 16th slam. Of course, that doesn't count towards the head-to-head, but think about like going in there against the GOAT. You know what I mean? Like, he's the GOAT, and you are 0-11 against him. It's not easy, right? From a mental standpoint. So like we're sitting here and talking like these guys got to step up. I understand the difficulty because he is still so good, you know? But yeah, from a skill standpoint, I feel that Alcaraz and Sinner are above Djokovic, and that's why he can't hang with them anymore. That's where the age is costing him. Not really the skill, but the age. But these other guys, they're in the same boat as Sinner and Alcaraz. Like, they might have the skills maybe to pass a Djokovic, but from a mental standpoint, that's where they're failing. What it is exactly, I don't know, but it could be like too much respect for him as a GOAT, too much respect in the history of their matchups. There's too much damage being done by Djokovic, too many obstacles to overcome, and he goes in there and he still beats them, you know? So that to me is going to be super interesting to see. Like, when will Djokovic start playing bad? It has to happen, right? Like, he's not going to keep going until he's 50, right? Like, it was going to be this year or it's going to be next year. Like, when will he like play so bad that he's going to call it a day? You know, this will happen. He's not this will happen. So when will this happen? I think that's really interesting. I don't know. I really have no answer for that. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. I think not this year. I don't think it'll happen this year. Like, he'll lose. It's so weird with Djokovic. Like, he'll lose in another tournament to somebody that you would never think he would lose to, right? But then he'll still make the semis of the Grand Slam, right? Like, that's what the confusing is, because I think, I'm not saying that he doesn't take those other tournaments seriously. He does. But I think he like puts a little bit more will to win into the Grand Slam. He tries just a few percent more, and he goes all out against his body. Like, he doesn't care if he blows out his body or whatever. He goes all out in a Grand Slam. He might not necessarily do that in the other tournaments. Maybe this is not even conscious. Like, maybe it's just something that happens to him when he's at a Grand Slam. He just racks it up a gear, you know, and it's just unbelievable. Like, it's unbelievable what he's been able to do. Like, I don't think it's gotten enough press because it's been overshadowed by the success of Sinner and Alcaraz. But 4 slam semis at 38 is incredible, and if he can do that again this year, it's going to be amazing. You know, let's see. Like, I don't expect him to win a Grand Slam. I don't think he can, But if he continues to like be ranked top 5 and have the same results as 2025, I think that's unbelievable. And I do think there's a chance that he can do it. He seems super motivated.
Yeah, he said like 2028, like he's kind of, he's not confirmed that he's going to play that long because the body will decide, of course, and his mind, of course. But I think his horizon is that like if I'm fresh and he's really taking care of himself, we all know that, right? Then I can play on this level until next Olympics, and then after that, probably that's like, I mean, he doesn't want to play probably past like 42 or whatever, I think that this is where we see probably some kind of line drawn. Maybe after 40 he will start like slowing down, but for now, I mean, he can choose his schedule. Guys are still afraid of him. They know like this head-to-heads he has against all the top guys. You said like in the top 50 in many parts. He has great head-to-heads against everyone, so except Alcaraz and Sinner. So that's like you're living rent-free, in someone's head. That's going to be tough to close out the match. We've seen Musetti. We've seen these guys struggle when you're like, okay, Novak is partly injured. He is not looking great. Still, he can't win. Like on clay, they can't win. Like you're like, how is this working out for him? But he has this, he has the grit. So we will see. I think that's a storyline in itself. Like when will Novak start suffering a bit more?
I ranked like the top. I think I did that. I don't think I did that in my dream. I think I put out a video of the best matches of 2025. I think I did. And man, I put the Djokovic Hurkacz Geneva final in the top 10, and I put Djokovic Musetti Athens final in my top 10. Like those matches were so unbelievable. Like these guys playing out of their mind, both Hurkacz and Musetti, like out of their mind, and Djokovic like figuring out a way to win, like winning it like tight in the third. Unreal. Like the way he's still able to sneak out these wins. Like it's just incredible to watch, against such quality opponents.
Superhuman power.
It's really incredible because Musetti was playing so well. Of course, like people in the comments of that video, like my analysis video of that match were saying that Musetti choked and he had double fault here and there. No, Musetti, like as Djokovic said, played some of the best hardcore tennis, if not the best hardcore tennis he's ever seen. Like Musetti's stepping up his game on hard courts. Like he even played the final against Bublik in Hong Kong this year. So like top level Musetti, like playing out of his mind, and still Djokovic somehow managed to win that one. So yeah, it's so fun. Like I think tennis is so good right now. It's incredible. I actually can't believe it, Jonas. Like I thought it was going to be boring. Like I'm very critical when it comes to tennis. And I thought it's going to be like the early 2000s, no disrespect to the early 2000s, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Like I thought it was going to be like that, like weird, unexpected Grand Slam champs, no consistency, weird number ones, like that you wouldn't think that ever could make it to number one. I thought that this was going to be our future. And I did not think that Djokovic was going to play this long. But what do we have now? We have the replacement for the big three, and we have Djokovic still there playing at this level. And it's just unbelievably exciting. And it's great for all of us. It's fantastic.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like it's a good time to be a tennis fan, right? Let's say it like that, or a tennis nerd, or a tennis player. So like we have a lot to look forward to over the coming months. If we take a brief step into the women's side of the game, which is very much more open, right? Like we have, Sabalenka is strong favorite, of course. Swiatek playing really well, a bit on and off more, like maybe some injury concerns now recently from the United Cup, from what I heard. Who do you think like has the game to win the Australian Open? I think one competitor to Sabalenka is Anisimova, who's been playing amazing as well. Like she's one player that you should really watch out for. Maybe Coco can do something as well if she's in the right mindset. So exciting also on the women's side.
Yeah, I covered the WTA finals, and prior to the tournament starting, I predicted that Rybakina was going to win, and she did end up winning. I feel like she has the potential to do unbelievable things on tour and become very dominant, especially like on faster courts. And I think I didn't release the court speed for Australian Open, but this historically always been a little bit faster. Maybe the fastest Grand Slam. Do I have that right? Australian Open. Mm-hmm. So if that's the case, like obviously that's going to benefit Rybakina. It's going to benefit, of course, Sabalenka too. it's not going to benefit like Swiatek and Coco Gauff as much. So that's really the top of the game. You know, it's like you got these incredible players capable of taking big titles, and it goes back and forth a lot. And I think the WTA, despite what a lot of people say, I think it's in a great place. I think these are incredible players. A lot of people will make the argument they will compare the top right now to the greatest of all time on the WTA tour, and that's not fair. Just like it's not fair to compare Sinner and Alcaraz to the big three. So they'll reminisce about the Graf, Selish, rivalry, Navratilova, Evert, even the Sharapova, era. Compare that directly to this era, and I don't think it's fair to these players because I think Iga, for example, is like building a nice resume now to be considered one of the greatest of all time, maybe the greatest clay court player in the history. She could potentially surpass Chris Evert's Roland Garros record of 7 titles. So I think the game is in great hands, and even more impressively, like the level between let's say like between 100 and 300, I think has exploded, because historically that used to be like weaker. Like it was significantly weaker as you went down in the rankings, and you could see it in the score lines. Like back in its, let's say, like Graf Sellers days, like they would win some matches like 0-0, right? Like a lot of matches 0-0 actually, and that felt like back in those days, like the players that were ranked between 100 and 300 had no chance to beat any of them. I'm not saying that they necessarily have a chance to beat the top players now, but they are unbelievably good, the players between 100 and 300 in the world. Because I watch a lot of ITF women's tennis, and the level is sky high there as well. And then, of course, the top 100 in itself has improved tremendously. It's as good as it's ever been. So, yeah, the WTA is fantastic to watch. There's so many young players coming up that are great, like Maya Joint, Iala, you got the Jovic, you have, of course, Mira Andreeva. I'm probably leaving out a few, but so many youngsters coming up that are great. They're going to try to climb to the top, and we have the very, very strong top of the game established. Like some unbelievable players up there, like Goff, Rybakina, Sabalenka, Swiatek. That's a really strong top of the game, and then of course the rest of the top 10 is good too, like Pegula and everybody else. So the WTA is just so fun. Like I've always been a big WTA fan, but now it's like more fun than ever to me to watch.
I agree.
You know?
I agree. I think the product of tennis, both on the women's and the men's side, has so much variety and richness now. Like that's like from like players from all over the world on both sides, and making it quite difficult to predict, how things will turn out. Like we have the Alcaraz Sinner rivalry, but on the women's side, it's a little bit more open, which is also good in a way. So you have some variety there. And I completely agree that on both tours, the level across, like when you go down the rankings, when you go like up to like on the men's side, like top 500, incredible players, and also on the women's side, which used to be quite weak. I remember those days. So when I grew up watching tennis, Ciseles and Graf, destroying players with big numbers. Like that doesn't happen on the same way, and it's always a fight, and there's a lot more upsets. So I think tennis doing fantastically well in 2026, and it's exciting for us tennis nerds and the tennis lovers to be a part of this era. It's going to be good stuff.
It's fantastic, man. I'm excited, super excited about 26. It's going to be fun.
So last but not least, let's predict some winners for the Australian Open. I mean, you got to do some prediction videos. Maybe you don't want to do it, but like if you would gut feel it, like what would you be, like men's winner, women's winner?
You know what, Jonas? Like honestly, like no disrespect to your podcast, but like I go through a whole process. Like I first and foremost fill the draw out by hand, which is absolutely insane. Okay, it takes hours, but I feel like when I do it that way, rather than doing it digitally, like once I've write the name down, like I can't change it anymore. It's gonna mess up the whole draw.
Yeah.
So I put a lot of thought into my picks, each individual one, each match. Now this doesn't mean that I'm going to win the 10 million Australian dollar crypto prize because I'm going to select every single men's and women's match correctly. That's what's going on right now. I don't know if you knew, but you can get.
I know about that. What is that?
You can win. You can win 10 million Australian dollars if you predict every men's and women's match. It's like, are you kidding me?
Impossible.
Like I have the better chances of like buying a lottery ticket, you know?
Yeah.
So you get a lot wrong. So you get a lot wrong, but I don't care because I learned through this process. Like everything that I do for like my professional tennis coverage, it helps me to learn and become more knowledgeable about the game in many different aspects. So I'll go through the head-to-heads of each first round match, and then I'll try to put a draw together. And based off what I have happening in the draw, I'll come to some really interesting conclusions. And I cannot make any predictions prior to seeing the draw. So I'm gonna wait. I think it's on Thursday Thursday the draw comes out. So I'll probably release a video on Friday, and that's when I'll predict. I really don't know yet. I mean, I could just give you somebody random, like, you know, but it's pretty obvious who's going to be the favorites and all that. But I do want to like go through my process and see what I come up with.
I think so. I think that's the good answer as well. It's so tough to just throw out something out there, and I also sometimes give the time to go through the predictions. I like that stuff. It also gives you like an understanding of the whole tournament, like who can attack from where. Like if you actually get a look at the draw, it makes a very different situation in terms of predictions, because you can see like you know, if Alcaraz has Bublik in the quarters or whatever, you know, like, okay, that could be a trip up match maybe, right? So it's a different vibe when you have the full predictions on.
100%. Jonas, are you going to do predictions?
I might. It's a time thing usually. Like I have done previous years, and then I don't find like enough time because it's a lot of gear stuff, and depending on the schedule of what I'm doing, you know, between.
Jonas,
but I would love to try it.
I have a question for you. I'm a fan of Tennis Nerd. You know that. Like you're one of my favorite channels, and I even go on your website. Like, but what happened to This Week in Tennis, man? I missed that. Are you gonna bring that back this week in tennis?
I think it's maybe time to bring it back. Yeah, that would be good actually. Like Monday,
that was
go
awesome.
through what's one. Okay, thanks.
You know what I love the most? Like when you break down like the rackets. Like that's just insane. Like nobody has the knowledge that you do. Like let me just share with the audience what a goat Jonas is. Like we're talking off cam, and we're discussing rackets, and I brought up my Hyper Hammer 5.2 Wilson, and I told him, Jonas, that racket was longer. And I said, it's like, I think it was the same length as my Bevel Apira Plus. And Jonas was like, no. I think if I'm getting this wrong, tell me, but you actually had the right length on the Hyperhammer 5.2, which was like 27.25.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? This guy is insane. Like that racket was discontinued in like 2001. All right. It got discontinued in like 25 years ago. Like, and this Jonas knew the length of the Hyperhammer 5.2, which is absolutely insane depth of knowledge. Do I get the number right? Was it 27.25?
100%.
How long
correct,
is the
yeah.
how long is the PD?
27.5.
See, and you knew the discrepancy. Like that's just a gold level, gold standard of knowledge. And yeah, that's why I'm a fan of Tennis Nerd. I don't I have watched all the videos, man. And like you know which ones I also like? When you do the insights to the tour, like what strings is this guy using, like what you like pull down the curtain on the racket situation. You say like, hey, this guy's using a blade supposedly, but no, it's like something else. And like that, I love that. I don't know how you find that information, but it's like super entertaining.
Yeah, a lot of it is like, I think, it sounds like a silly obsession in many ways, but it just came naturally like that. And I think there are a lot of similar guys out there who love the gear stuff. A lot of it you can tell from, like, sometimes you have inside sources, but a lot of it you can tell from pictures. Like, okay, they're obviously, companies want players to endorse a certain model, and then the player is not like keen on switching. So we know, like, we talk to kind of close the bow on the conversation. Like when you're used to a racket, making a switch is a big deal. So you don't see a lot of pros do it, but when they do it, it's very exciting to see what happens. You know, we had the story just a week ago, like with Emma Raducanu. She was practicing like all week with E-Zone, and then she starts her first match in the United Cup. She plays her old racket, her old Steam 100 racket. And that happens, you know, and you're like, okay, I made a video about the E-Zone, and like, oh, exciting. Let's see if Emma can bring like something new to her game. Like Madison Keys, she won the Australian Open after making a switch, but in the end, she didn't want to play. So there's some good storylines in gear as well. That's really what I like the most, I would say.
We came full circle, man. We started with like my video, new rackets are coming out in 2026. Who cares? And that was just like one example. Like these, obviously these players are not going to switch just because of like the new racket comes out. They're not crazy like that, They're going to play with the same racket for a long time, but they are going to switch too. And that's, like you said, that becomes like super, super interesting, like what they're going to switch to, what's the process, like they're maybe going to try a different racket, go back to the original one. Like that's really fun to watch. I agree with you. But
yeah,
just
because
to come back but to come back full circle, like we said in the beginning, like as a player watching, yeah, like just it's okay for your racket not to be the current paint job. Like who cares? Like it doesn't matter. Like trust me, it doesn't matter because the new paint job, the pro not even using that anyway. They're playing with the old models. So it's just a paint job. Like you're trapped by the marketing of the whole thing. That doesn't say like used by, it says endorsed by now everywhere because they got sued, right? So
yeah,
don't switch rackets unless you need to switch. Like it's okay to play with old racket. That's it.
yeah.
Case
Or
closed.
unless a company offers you loads of money, maybe then you can consider switching. It's quite
Even
rare.
then, man. Even then, you have
Oh,
to
100%.
have to have character that you built by improving your tennis. You have to have character and not fall for that
Never
trap either.
that's when you deal with pros. Like what's usually like contracts of pro players is like very heavily based on bonuses. So if you're not winning
Yeah,
matches, you're not getting money from the racket company beyond what you already got, maybe as a first
exactly.
payment, depending on how good you are. But like, so it's all about winning. And if you need to go and buy your rackets from Tennis Warehouse or whatever just to win matches, that's what you do because you have to win matches, right? So I think that's really important. Like you cannot just switch because like the design is better or because you get money or something. It has to be
I'm
working
so
for you.
glad you, be honest. I'm so glad you brought that up because exactly what you're saying. I saw Steve Johnson was talking about that. I think it was on the Changeover podcast. If
I think
I don't
so.
know,
Yeah,
I'm not 100% sure, but he said like the title of one of the videos was like, "Don't switch rackets for the money," right?
yeah.
And I had a great offer from Technifiber when I was doing my series, and they offered like a lot of actually perks. Obviously the free gear, but I don't care about the free gear, right? Like I mean, I want to stock up on rackets, but I don't necessarily need like more than 2 rackets because I don't really play that much and I don't really break strings anymore. So they offered other things that could have been very valuable for my channel, like access to pro players that use Technifiber. But even though that racket wasn't that bad, like it wasn't my top 5, like I play well with it, I stayed true to like who I am as like somebody that's like very transparent and honest, and I stayed true to myself, and I didn't take that deal. And I easily could have like I could have like just held a racket in the videos that's Technifiber and not even play with it, like, but I didn't because I want to play with a racket that's like that feels good. Like I want to be able to get it out of my head, as I said in this podcast and all that. And so yeah, like this is very important what racket you play with, and you shouldn't do it for like the wrong reasons. Choosing a racket, there are many wrong reasons. We don't have to like go over them again, but there are a lot of wrong reasons to choose a certain racket, and you gotta stay true to yourself, and pick the right one. So yeah,
Yeah, that's with a lot of things in life. It's pretty good wisdom, I think, in general. Like stay true to
it is.
yourself and make
I think so.
authentic decisions in your life, and
Yeah,
you'll probably be happier with yourself in the end, right?
100%. Yep.
Thanks, man. This was fun as always. We can always talk for 5 hours, but
Thank
we
you,
always
Jonas.
have lives going on outside our YouTube channels and podcasts and
Of
whatnot.
course.
Go check out Intuitive Tennis if you're not already subscribed. Check it out on YouTube. There's also other channels that you do. You also have a premium membership with more coaching on your websites, all kinds of resources where you find Nikola's wisdom there. So do that, and link to you in the description.
Thank you so much, Jonas, and thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Always welcome, man. We keep in touch for this year.
All right, man. Take care. Best of luck.
Thanks. Same.
Take it easy.